Hey, we got a super chat. Voodoo Vic, thanks for the $2, man. He says, any stories with Tajiri or super crazy?
Hmm. Well, um, super crazy. I like him. I can't think of any stories. I worked him just 2 years ago for Noah in Japan. It's always great to see him, see that he's still going, still doing his thing. Tajiri, I have been around a bit more. I remember he came to my comic book store in the Lakewood Mall when I opened it. He was like one of our very first people. Maybe he was the first or second, and he came in and did a few autographs, whatever. And then anyway, we never gave him money, and that was way back in what was that 2005, something like that. It was so long ago. And but anyway, we used his money that he brought in for starting capital, and so when I was in Australia, maybe 3 years ago, maybe it was 2020, maybe last time I was in Australia, I guess we did an ECW thing. Sabu was there, myself, Tajiri, Shane Douglas, Shane's trainer. I wanted to say his name before you do. Yeah, thank you. Dominic Danucci was there. Uh, it was a really cool tour in Australia. But anyway, I pulled Tajiri aside. I said, Tajiri, son, you remember you go to my store one time, boom, boom, boom. And I said, you bring in this and, we use that. And I said, so he said, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I said, yeah. So I owe you. And I gave him gave some money like 20 years later. And he was like, "Oh, you very honest," which I am. But it was also cool to be able to do that. And I remembered, what he brought in. I remembered the gate from that day anyway, and on the door. But I always liked him. I always got along with him really well. For some reason, the one time that I was in Korea, I remember eating with Tajiri in this Korean restaurant, and I have very few flashback memories of this tour. In fact, I always thought for sure I worked X Pac, and he says no, that we didn't. He's never been to Korea, so I'm like, all right. And like I forget who I decided it must have been. Like maybe it was Scotty Too Hottie, but I don't know. It must have been 2001. WWE was still new. I'm on that grind, going everywhere, and it was the only time I'd been to Korea. And for some reason, I remember, thinking we always call the Japanese barbecues in Japan Korean barbecues. That's what we call them. And then he was telling me, no, they're Japanese barbecues. They're called yakiniku, and I'm like, well, what's the difference? And he said, Korean barbecue, more salty, and I'll always remember that. That's just something. I'll just always remember that they told me the Korean barbecue is salty, too much salt, and that was a difference. So I don't know. Like we go to Korean barbecues around us all the time, and I really don't know. Is that Japanese barbecue but we had a place in California that was called Timayan Japanese barbecue, so that made it easy, and it was high quality beef. They're very similar anyway, but I think the shorter better, right? Because when I started doing it to Jerry saying, oh, too much salt, that reminds me when I first got to WWE and I'm in the ring, probably right around this time, but I'm having a match. I'm talking to Jerry, and I'm bummed about trying to adapt to the live television and the short times that we're given. And I'm like, man, how am I going to be the whole effing show and make sure everyone that bought a ticket is happy when they go home tonight? How am I going to do that in 6 minutes? And Tajiri's like, oh, sota beta. And I was like, what? Tajiri, you sold out, bro. I can't believe you did that, man. Like, man, I want to show what I got. I'm here. Sota beta. I was like, man, I can't believe you. And then after like about 1 month of getting the checks and realizing if I just ran in and did a kick off the top rope in the main event in a run-in, I would get paid 3 times what I would having a 15-minute match earlier in the card. All of a sudden, I was like, Shorter, better.
Short or better.
Yeah.
That might be the episode title this week. Short or better.
That really, when I think about it, that really is like the difference is that I went through that conditioning to believe that, and like people want to see great matches, like, RVD, wrestle, you name them, right?
Yeah, super
Uh,
great.
but yeah, I was thinking like Will Ospreay and Kenny
Oh
Omega,
yeah, a big match like
guy.
that.
I just wrestled. People wanted to see me wrestle that.
Mike Daly.
Speedball, yeah. But those guys don't think shorter, better. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like, too short would be too short. Obviously, I want to give the people their money's worth, but I did go through that conditioning that the other guys didn't go through that have built themselves up completely outside of WWE. You know what I mean? So that's something that I always knew. Because they want to steal the show and go 45 minutes every single night. At least that's how it comes across, you know. And I got to where a lot of times, like when I wrestled Bubba in a tag match in the ECW arena a couple of years ago for something, and I was like, what do you want to do? And I said, nothing. He goes, all right, nothing's changed. And then we all kind of laughed. But that is a big difference though. And they, had to break me down like that. But I was like, God damn it, Tajiri's right. Short to bit to, and obviously it's conditional, just like anything is.
Right, absolutely. Oh man, Tajiri.
When I wrestled AJ Styles, though, you know what I mean? Like if I hadn't gone through that conditioning of where, I wanted to do, as little as possible to get it in there, tell the story, and not worry so much about showing I can do every single high spot. If I hadn't gone through the WWF machine yet, then when I wrestled AJ Styles in TNA, then we would have had some of those fantasy kind of matches that he and everyone else used to probably think of, because I'm sure when we started working, his hopes were up a lot higher probably than mine, because I was at a different stage in my career, and I was like trying to teach everybody, like, hey, all right, you hear that? It's time to go home. We can go home now. You hear that? They're ready, and yeah.